it is the morning after SoBuilt Play. And so I'll do our little intro here. And we're live. All right. Yeah, that's right. Construction dorks. We're going to do it under that one too. So we're going to get a little dork out this morning. So we've all gathered. As you guys introduce yourselves, not a real introduction, but just make sure you say your name so anybody listening knows who you are. So I'm Jeff Sample, host, and I'm just, man, what a great day yesterday. I want you to think about, for me, there were some great takeaways. Leading with empathy, listening, creating a vibration. I think, Jesse, you and I were talking about it when you were doing your session. It was a vibration that we're creating. So, Kristina, how are you feeling after the morning, the day after?
I feel tired and grateful. Like, those are the words. I feel exhausted, but in the best way you can feel exhausted. Yeah. There's just so many gems. And, like, just looking around, especially Kelli, like, some of the stuff that you said just really resonated with me, like, deeply. And they were just so true and, like, perfect timing. So I appreciate that.
That's what I do. I just drop little grenades and then walk away.
There you go.
You didn't walk away.
I don't think you walk away.
No.
I think it's your...
Actually, really, I like to hang around afterwards. I like to see the aftermath.
Carnage.
You like the uncomfortable...
I do.
Like, everybody's like, oh, the uncomfortable silence. Jesse, you were saying 20 seconds is as long as we have. Kelli had let that thing sit for a minute and marinate and just watch.
Just watch people start sweating and dripping. But, it has been absolutely wonderful. And honestly, I am overwhelmed, still trying to just remember and put together and process all of the things that I heard, because so much of it was so profound. I mean, I don't use that word often because I hear lots of little tidbits here and they're like, oh, that's cool, that's nice. But a lot of it, a lot of the things that we heard and discussed can really be used in ways that can make a major impact in how we work with people, how we influence our industry, and even in our personal lives too. And I think that's just, it's overwhelming to try and process all that for me.
I didn't even think about putting it back together until you started to talk about it. And the jumbled up jigsaw puzzle of, nuggets that are in my head from the things we learn from each interaction. Mm-hmm. I think that was the other thing. I've never been more exhausted after one, physically, mentally, but in a good way. Like, we were sitting outside last night, and I was like, I literally took care of myself. I literally did things right, ate right, hydrated, and I'm still, like, that was a marathon of mind bending.
I drank a ton of water. You guys broke my brain. I had a migraine yesterday. Like, as soon as we got done with the actual events itself, and you guys were talking about dinner, I went upstairs and I laid down and I passed out and I didn't get back up until this morning. I think I slept for 12 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. Broke my brain. Put too much in there. Just quit.
I'm out.
Yep.
Brett was saying that it felt like he went to like a music festival.
Yeah.
Where it's tons of fun and you're really enjoying it, and there's so many different things that you can see and hear about, but you're just beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The craziest thing for me, Tony Altemus, the craziest thing for me, and I've been around this kind of stuff for a really long time, I've never had so many amazing people in one place at one time sharing profound things. That to me was the most amazing piece of this. And as I drove home and drove back today, just every person's face and what they actually left with me, I'm going to carry for a long time, past today, past even my working time. This was an amazing event, and I don't know how you all pulled this group of people together, but however it was done, you need to keep doing it, because you're going to blow the socks off of this industry.
Yep.
And you're going to build an army of people that are going to change the construction industry. And to me, that was the most amazing point to me.
Kristina has a lot of experience being a gang leader.
Okay, that's a deeper story. Some of you missed that. No.
You know, for like, I'm always on the hunt for conditions that'll help me have a different or new experience. Most of the experiences I find myself in are like cerebral, right? Like thinking, shifted thinking, a new way, a new model, a new, and I feel like this one, absolutely there was some cerebral shifts for me, and there was like this sentient thing, so it wasn't just my brain. There was this people thing, I don't even know if it's emotion, but I had to use I had to go a little deeper to stay engaged and be able rather to receive what was available. I couldn't just do it with my brain. I had to do it with more than just my brain. And that is absolutely a unique experience.
So you going all spiritual on us, Jesse?
I won't go spiritual, but it could be, right?
I mean, so what is it though? If it's not cerebral, because it's different.
So I think about, maybe the only easy way I can say it right now is transactional and relational interactions, right? Transactional, hey, how you doing? Here's my business card. Let's set up a call so we can, close a deal. Relational, what was your inspiration behind doing this? And then I feel it and say, holy hell, you just lit something in me that I can go do. That's...
Yeah. So the way I would state that, I've heard it transactional versus transformational. And this was transformational. So yesterday, you came around and you asked somebody to sum it all up in a word. You asked everybody to do that, right? So yesterday I said needed, as in I needed this. This morning it was thankful, because I changed it. And now it's refreshed. I'm refreshed, ready to get back at it, ready to take on the world.
And that arc is transformation.
Yeah.
Right? The arc of what happened there. For me, Mondo, you just hit on it, because this is a place, most places I go, you go in, you dive in, you want to try some new stuff. Yeah, you want some feedback, you want your close, confidants that you work with that know your spiel. You're not really looking to be, I don't know, question's not the word for it, but this is a room I would want to go in and know that you are going to ask me something thoughtful, real, to challenge me in a way, like I'd bring anything new. Like you kind of throw a new, like where else would I want to throw out a new idea that I also know I'm going to get like Swiss cheese holes in me, but like I'm going to feel good about it. They're like, it's like this.
We'll
like,
hold you up. We do that.
They hold you up, shoot through you, build you back up. That's the difference to this group. Like there was a vibe to that. That I just noticed that, and then the difference in the people, right, and allowing them to sink into who they are.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody sinks into who they are and does their thing, and was open to do their thing, but still shared their way.
Don't call it a conference. Whatever you do, right? It's a transformation summit. I feel like is the new term.
Don't call it a conference.
I haven't called it a conference
But
yet.
it was in my head.
Because of that, yeah. But you're hitting on something that is so intentional too, because and Charlie, you and I talked about this, which is trust. It's how do we build a space that has such someone used the word organic, an organic sense of trust, so that we can dive into the unknown. We can be curious about failure. We can be open about that, and then we can build some better belonging with each other. And so it's like, that was what was so great about having you guys, because everybody sort of hit all of the major, the 3 major points, belonging, purpose, and curiosity, but in their own style. And I love the feedback we got from some people that were saying, oh, this one was a little hectic for me. I really like this one. And the other one's like, I love the openness of that. and I needed more structure here. And it just shows the diversity of thought and experience that we had in this room, which I really appreciated.
But none of this would have started without how you started, your vulnerability and I mean, you talk about trust, like the source of trust was you creating that space. And so, yeah, I think those are things that too often people will try and recreate this and they'll miss that part of it and they'll wonder why it didn't work.
Right.
And that's why.
Yeah, it's not like you can't just recreate this by saying like, what was the game? Let's play the game again.
Right.
It'll fail.
Yeah, let's play a bunch of games
Yeah.
and learn some lessons. No.
And I was not comfortable sharing that, as you guys saw. Which Jesse
got it on
you
video.
recorded
I don't
it.
think anyone would be.
Man.
We'll splice that in.
But what happened was, and I didn't even understand the power of it, was when we got to sharing everyone's personal story, everyone's story, everyone dived into something personal, something deep. And we sort of did an evolution of steps to get people there. It's because we said, what are you procrastinating right now? Right? Why? And had them process that out of their body. And then later on, now we're doing emotional bungee jumping, and then we're gonna dive into the broken trust matrix, and then we're gonna go ideate together. So it's like, that's what I love, is this undertone of connection and trust, and yet we still were doing things that were gonna be very tangible, so that we felt like when we go back, we weren't in like an isolation chamber. You know, I think that's like really important, is the transition back.
I think the exercise, Charlie, that you did in actually building something as a team, even with Legos, that was pretty amazing to be a part of that and to learn in a very simplistic way. You know, it might be really good if you take your materials and you lay them out in such a manner that you could actually put this thing together, as opposed to it being hectic and chaotic and people trying to run over people and put pieces in. And that whole thing, in terms of building that building all the way up and putting the roof on, that to me was amazing. And it kind of symbolized the whole thing from beginning to end, because you're showing that you can be out there with your emotion, and also at the same time be able to work together to build something. And just the whole process of going through that yesterday, I mean, those things are just gonna remain with me. I can't, you know, I've said that twice, and I really meant to say it twice, because I haven't ever been in a room like this with people like this and walked out with a number of things that are not only going to benefit me in my work life, but they're going to benefit me in life. And that's what I appreciate.
Yeah. I'm wondering from your perspective, Charlie, because Tony, you hit on it, and I think we opened it up over here, is opening with vulnerability really allowed us all to sit. I noticed this during your sessions. It allowed us to sit in the raw emotions of what we deal with and process them better. Like, that's what I felt like is different from me. I don't normally go into your 90% already vulnerable, ready to experience the emotion. So I'm wondering from that perspective, what it was like going up later in the day, doing some of these things, doing it sans PowerPoint, sans
That was a
tools.
great-
Yes.
Well, let me
Excellent.
start there, because I'm sitting there now looking at the space, and the opening vulnerability, I believe, happened because those two leather long bar stools were front and center. And I'm not gonna say it was spiritual, but the building yesterday morning was definitely sending me a message, which was, do not use those screens. Like, I woke up and that idea was front and center in my mind. I went to bed trying to figure out, am I gonna go to Office Depot or to Walmart to get an HDMI splitter and buy another cable? And,
Yeah.
you know, and then I woke up and I was like, what are we actually doing go in this room, the worst and the last thing we should be thinking about is the quality of the screens.
Yep.
And we, the night before, we're trying to lay out the tables so everybody have line of sight to a screen. And Kristina even mentioned, but what about how much they'll see other people? So all of that had to happen, that the people became front and center. And you're asking a great question, Jeff, because I've never come into it with a room like that. And there's some things I know I would maybe amplify a little differently. But I'm very much a one that kind of the muse picture path if you listen. So I never end with regret. Even as simple as another place that maybe the event spoke to us. Normally we do this waste emotion exercise where you throw away if construction is average based on studies comes in around 30% waste. Let's say we're world class. That means we build 3 buildings and put one in the landfill. So we'll do a waste walk and people line up at their buildings.
Those Legos.
And 1 out of 4 have to throw them away. And when we did this with 180 people, guys were cutting in line to not have to throw their Lego buildings away.
To save their building. They were gamifying it as we
I
watched
don't want
them.
my building to be
But
the
maybe
one.
yesterday in this room with these people, that was not the right emotion. Like we didn't want to throw anything away.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
And that was not an intentional oversight, but in reflecting back, like certain things always come forward and don't, and you have to be comfortable that that's what was supposed to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. It's one of those events. In hindsight, I'd change a lot, but in reality, I'd change nothing. As we're planning ahead, I know we're going to learn a bunch from it, but I wouldn't change
I
it.
have one looking at Kelli, who came in over the top rope for the quiet people. She's like there's some irony there. Like I'm really quiet, but I'm gonna come in strong right now. That some intentional, hey, this is a time to go to your room. If you need to take a coffee nap, we got espresso for, or you just want to journal. Like I think that would be obviously there was so much desire to do all this stuff. Which brings me to one other, I think, phenomenal insight from Brett Ayu, whose nickname is Booyah, and whose
Booyah.
like his personal mission statement is I'm a wingman. Like that's Brett.
Okay.
But Brett came up to me after, he goes, Charlie, this was like being at a concert with a lot of really talented musicians that maybe hadn't put their sets together like this ever before. So some of the transitions were different, but it all kind of worked. And then it felt like the concert organizers didn't really know what kind of concert they were going to have. And I said, well, Brett, from being on that side, it was that. It was, okay, let's get the right people together and let's be comfortable with where it goes. And so to me, if I were going to play that forward, sitting here in Austin, Texas, this is much more like a bluegrass jam session than it was like a pick your top shelf artist concert that's scripted.
It's not Austin City Limits Festival.
Yeah, right. Like,
No, it's like if any of you've been to Telluride Bluegrass Festival, that's one of the interesting things of it. It's like you got all those people on the stage, but the real cool stuff happens, like waiting in line at the bakery, and there's a long line. A bunch of them are great banjo players or whatever, and they just pull it out. And like you said, they've never played before, never played together, but they've played. So it makes its own new tune, its own new vibe.
the other thing I don't want us to not put out there is the phenomenal space that Kristina
Yes.
and I'm looking forward to literally over the years hearing about different conversations, whether it was right outside the other side of these garage doors, the pool. I know there was a late night rooftop conversation. I was trying to get guys here, but they were across the street at Lucky Duck. By the time I got here, I was out, but they were on the rooftop. That kind of just a space that, allow for this recharge, refresh, real conversations.
It was like our entire drive to Terry Black's last night, our dinner at Terry Black's and coming back was just like one strange golden thread of conversations. And I feel like that went, and your groups would come back together and you'd be like, what do you guys, jam back together and go.
Like that jam idea, I think about the places I've been and spoken at, and the contributions from the audience are usually, what's the word? I'm going to say something as smart as I can say so people here can think I'm smart.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Posturing.
Thank you, posturing. Or I'm going to say something contrary to what you just presented, so people think I'm smart.
Solution
Come back.
shaking.
The solution shaker.
I'm like, I am such a solution shaker. Like, thank you for giving me that term. I'm like, I'm about to solution shank you right now. at least I'm calling it out. Right?
You can't tell them the shank's coming.
Shank you. Give him warning. Like, isn't that part of being a consultant? Is like you come here like,
Prep the medic, get the stretcher.
Well, that's the thing. That's probably how people receive it. That's not
Exactly.
your intention,
But that's how
but
it
that's how
is.
they
Yes.
most likely receive it.
But the commentary, like the contribution from the group, was them picking up their instrument and playing a couple of notes too. Is that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah.
that's what happened between these two.
Yeah.
He was ready to play a note and throw a jam, and you threw the jam, and he just went,
Mm.
"Well, I'm just gonna play backup on that one because he nailed it." You know.
So it was all like we were all in a line, like flowing in a direction. So we were in some state of flow throughout the whole day. It wasn't that funkiness that usually.
Yeah.
Another thread on that, and I do want to give a shout out because I reached out to a friend who couldn't make it for some tech companies that maybe should be here to help on their story for the industry. And so two that showed up, Rugged and Quan. Now I guess I'll start with Tony because the irony there is, who would have thought that tech geeks in the room would have sent the guy with maybe the most wisdom? Like Tony came in with a lot of wisdom.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
he was not here hawking a tech solution. He was all in on what was going on
Yep.
with people. And then the same thing, George from Rugged. Like it's like they heard the music and realized the jams they brought weren't going to be the jams for the room, and they were cool with that.
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
don't need to set up the robot, and we don't need to have the quants, but we're here for all of this.
I was gonna say to continue the analogy, like kind of George showed up as a DJ, and he was like,
oh, this is bluegrass.
"DJ's not gonna spin that shit here." But the cool part about it was he was cool, and you're right, Tony. You brought tons of wisdom, and George played a great role and good addition. And I honestly didn't even know that George was the robot. You told
He
me
had
the robot
something to
guy
sell,
was
right?
coming.
Yeah, because he was so.
And then at the end, I mean, I ended up talking to him about it, and I kind of know a bit about Rugged, a great product. But yeah, he just knew.
I didn't know where he was from. I did not make that connection. And I mean, I knew, Tony, where you were from because your shirt had it on it, but he never once mentioned his company.
Yeah.
Never.
Right.
Never.
Honestly, if
anything.
I didn't know Quan, at first I thought it said Kiewit. I'm not kidding you. Most of the day I was like, "Oh, that dude's from Kiewit," and then I went, "Oh, crap." But did it matter?
No,
not
that's
one bit.
exactly the point,
No, it didn't.
right? We're talking about a few things that they're actually very connected. So the space, the experience, the feedback from people, the fact that we didn't know each other's companies.
Yeah.
That has to be how we lead, because that's why people were leaving some of that posturing behind. And they're not like, okay, here's my thing, do you want it? And here's my card, transactional.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
And so when you talk about the space, when I stood in this space, I'm like, okay, how can we have some organic, casual conversation? How can we have people here? How can we make it feel homey and yet also productive and a little bit different and cool? And we don't do that enough.
Right.
I think we really underestimate space from a physical, an aesthetic, sizing, functionality, even though we create them. Like we're building spaces all the time, but we need to sort of take a step back and be like, what is this space for? How is that going to create certain feelings, certain vulnerabilities? The echoes we need to work on. Thank you, Nathan.
Yeah.
But
Those are the little things, yeah, you can't know until you're here.
yeah, and when you get into that space and you get people to come without their shirt and ties, right? You guys are in shorts. Like and you should get to drop that, then the people lead the conversation. And so we're not speakers, we're guides.
Yes.
And that's what I
Yes.
loved about
And
this experience.
I think you did a fantastic job of setting that up by doing the small things that are different from other places that we go, like conferences, where the first thing they do is put your name and then your company underneath it. And we didn't have that. We just had our name because that's what's important to this interaction is people, not, oh, I want to know where, oh, you're a company I want to talk to, you're, you know, regardless of, I know this person, I want to know, no, this is about us and interacting as people, and leaving that out to begin with sets the stage for, it's about interactions and being personal.
Yeah.
That is the uniqueness of this, because the little things just culminated with the whole. And like I have 7 principles and I'm adding 2 to them, but one of them is read the room.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about that, and you had a room full of people that knew how to read the room, like George. And personally, I think he looks like Joel Osteen, and I was concerned about him trying to save me. But he didn't do that, so he didn't save me, he didn't sell me, but he read the room, and I appreciated that. And even some feedback for Jen and Jesse, I was like, you guys didn't go that extra step and say, hey, here's this QR code, scan this. But I appreciated that, because that would have felt, it would have felt right.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. So I appreciated that nobody was pushing their own agenda. It was, we're here together for the people aspect, and that's what made it unique.
Yeah.
You
And
lean into the Jesse, you're the Johnny Cash day. Oh, I couldn't find my iron, didn't have anything but shorts. I had to go, but I didn't have no socks.
and I want to
Sure, but-
call out Nathan for being such a good sport in these last minute changes, because we made that decision for the no tech pretty much in the morning, and then we were like, hey, we got these garage doors, and he's like, is that magnetic? And I'm like, yeah, it's magnetic, whatever. And he's like, oh, and like, you're like, we can put stuff on there. And so by just removing some of the things that we feel like we always need, we started to notice the things that we already had that we weren't using.
Yeah,
Right?
the less became more.
Yeah. And it was awesome. It was a great energy doing the CDX on the garage doors. They're big, everyone was collated. And someone was on the refrigerator even too, right? Yeah.
Wherever they'll fit.
So it just created such a, like, that word organic and authentic, like, I love the one worders, and it's embodied everywhere. Thank you for being flexible.
Well, and back to the having company names on your name tags. That was something in the first summit we didn't put companies on, and got feedback that, oh, well, we didn't know who people work for. So I just immediately responded that the customer's always right, and put companies on the next time. But I think, next year around, I'm going to take them back off again, because for all these reasons.
Well, and that is something that I've noticed. I've gone through some of the feedback and looked at things, and I went, yeah, some of that, thank you for the feedback, but
No.
nope.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I think to your transformation arc, Mondo, I'm pointing at you, Mondo, the transformation arc, right? I think quite a few of those folks that got uncomfortable in the middle, some of those things are the uncomfortable differences about this. Like, I don't know what my identity is, because I'm not laying it down. I'm in a business setting, and I'm not presenting you my armored identity. I am this from this company, then I do this. So now we're good. So I feel like they'll, in some hindsight, see that.
I think some people saw it right away.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, I
Those
think you're right.
paradigm shifts
Yeah.
that were there. You started out with the and you didn't plan on doing that, correct?
I was like, I'm just going to share my story real
Right,
quick,
right.
and then that, and then Jeff's like,
Well,
tell
no.
me more.
You just touched a nerve.
Actually, this is true. Yeah, you need to tell this.
So I've been wide open for a while, and we'd had some calls about agenda, and I knew enough to know it was going to drift a little. But I finally paid attention toward the end of last week, and I messaged Kristina, I'm like, so when are you talking about purpose, belonging, curiosity? And she said, well, I'm really struggling with that, if I can be honest, because I feel like I don't want to take up too much space because of all the other good stuff. Like, what are you talking about?
That's why we're here.
Because if I understood the agenda once I saw it, she wasn't even planning a session like we ended up having. She was going to do a couple Lego Serious Play things
Yeah.
for people to build Legos and talk about their stuff, which could be really cool.
Sure.
But I don't think is what people were showing up for
No.
at all.
No.
Yep.
No, I agree.
Agreed.
Yeah, and when you were going to glance over your story, that wasn't there.
I wasn't going to tell it at all.
Like she only had an hour
Sorry, that was
do-
always in
to
the
do
plan.
two to
I
three-
don't know if it was in your plan.
2 to 3 Lego sessions and then jump right into other content. And like an hour to introduce the room to what we're here for is not enough.
Yeah.
You know, and then I don't know how it landed that because the interview was perfect and I was like, okay, good, because Jeff's not gonna let
That
us
happened
go.
morning of, I think, right?
Yeah, it did.
It was like
It was-
20 minutes prior, maybe even.
Maybe 5.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like,
That was the right call.
you were like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and she's like, would you kind of sit up there and it's like an interview you? Sure.
Yeah. Well,
I heard what I heard.
I heard that.
let's talk about that because that's really that.
Can we
was
talk
a
about
change.
Jeff's superpower?
Yeah, we should actually.
How
do
have you
have
not
that
always
natural
done what
MC
you do in this
power.
role? Like, imagine you as an IT person just is beyond me. Like, I can't imagine you as an IT person and not leading conversations and doing what you do.
That is a hard one.
Yeah. That really helped me though, because when I first dreamed up what this would be, I knew I needed to lead with vulnerability. I needed to lead with why we're here and everything. And then as I was planning in the thick of it, like any project, you start to think and second guess, like, okay, well, is this right? Should I drift, like you said? What? And then I started to invite some amazing people here. And I'm like, oh, is this going to be good enough compared to Jesse, Nathan, and Charlie? And is that good enough? Comparison game. And I feel like we find ourselves in that role, even if we don't want to. And then there was a good day where I'm like, no, this is the event I'm hosting. I gotta. And then I'm like, but a good host would maybe leave space. And then I'm like, I can give mine away. I don't need any space. And then, yeah, it was just this little roller coaster, if I'm really honest. And it wasn't until Charlie called me out on it. He's like, wait, wasn't this originally like this beautiful thing? And now it feels more transactional. It's like workshop, workshop, workshop. So I think I don't have the answers, and I think that's kind of the whole beauty of this, is that we are authentically imperfect and just trying to grow and learn from each other. And it's like, I shouldn't hide the fact that I almost canceled this thing because it's real. And people do leave their passions behind, or the things they think our project needs, from a comparison game or from a fear or self-doubt or any of those things. But
Yeah,
I think this was really
I remember
healing.
that call.
Yeah.
Because then I joked, I think I jinxed us on, getting people, because when she was ready to pull the trigger, I was like, well, who are the people signed up?
Yeah.
And I said, I would show up just for that group.
You know how many times I heard that?
Even if you
Yeah.
get nobody else, like, I'm good for that.
Well, I needed Preston there. Like, and then my heart felt like calm. But yeah.
And the fact that Sasha Reed came in not even through a different connection, right? Or she said that
I met him.
wasn't even aware that I was coming. Sasha.
Well, I met Sasha at your event.
Mhm.
Your event had so many brilliant people. It's very much like this, actually, when it comes to like brilliant minds. But yeah, we connected later. So that's the whole thing, right? The connections, the little nodes in the net or web.
Well, and after Sasha got brought in, she's the one
Yeah.
that told me about it. She's like, you have to come to this. And I'm like, okay. And then I got a message from you, so I'm like, okay, Sasha and Nathan must have talked about me going. I'm like, all right, well, if they're both telling me, and then Kristina, you reached out to me too. And when you had said that, I'm like, I do remember,
Yeah.
talking very briefly. And so I'm like, I got to go to this. And honestly, I think like most people, we have some kind of idea of what we can and can't do with our companies when it comes to attending these types of events. Like I get a budget specifically that's like, for the year you can attend these kinds of things, and I tend to focus on going to tech conferences because, well, for one, I speak at some of them, but also because that's what's going to typically, I think of as advancing my career, is understanding tech better, learning new ideas that I can implement and things like this. But being able to know that this one existed and then taking the chance on it, I can't imagine an event that would have a bigger impact on not only me personally, but my work and the people that I work with and the company than this.
I don't take that for granted at all. Like that, I'm
Yeah,
receiving
I mean,
that.
like one piece of tech or one hint that I can use for bettering a process or for bettering a platform is a great thing that's going to help people out, but changing how I approach people, changing how I look at things is going to change every interaction that I have with everyone I work with, and that is a profound effect that it will be universal to my career and to my personal life too.
Because content, community, coaching. I don't think we can have just one, and we've become obsessed with content consumption. Give me the tech, give me the process, give me the one pager, give me this new thing, add me a plugin, and it's when you become obsessed with one of it and you lose the community around it, to help you feel like, okay, look, this process sucks, can I get some help, and all those things that are naturally going to occur, you feel a little disconnected. And so I feel like what I want to build is to have that, so that we don't feel like it's just content and it's just like, okay, let me just throw this stuff at your face, but it's also a community for implementation, and it's also coaching, so that all these different styles that I mentioned, you can find what works for you to make these things happen sustainably, right? Because tech conferences, I love a lot of them. There's some great ideas, and then you go there 3 years later, those ideas are still there.
Yeah, they're still talking about the same things.
10 years later.
I was being nice.
We're not here to be nice.
Yeah, because we're not taking people-focused implementations, and we just think like, oh, obviously the tech is amazing, everyone's going to buy into it.
We'll just create the next tech, and then that one will work.
That's the end.
Sure.
And we'll put it in a cloud, so always that's better. Just cloud better.
Well, it's cloud. It's higher up.
It's all in one place.
It's fluffy. It's fluffy and feels good, like
If you want to
bunnies
print,
and
maybe
bears.
that's a problem, but don't worry, it's cloud still.
Yeah, it's I think that was another one I heard yesterday that was very accidental, or maybe it wasn't, since I was in the planning and not in the planning, but we gave kind of an agenda, you gave kind of an agenda, but not a lot of times, not a lot of specifics, and that allowed for the flexibility, but I heard this last night, it also prevented and respected our different personalities, that some folks, if you put that out there, they will be, okay, it's like, I'm going to go to this session, I'm going to go to this session, I'm interested in this session, I'm not interested in that session, I'll book this call then. Or, like you just said, we're at here. You haven't, it's 10:15. 10:15 says we do this. We're not doing this.
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing this? That didn't happen.
People saw the sharks and fish in the to-do that we hadn't done it
That
yet.
was
Like,
the
wait,
big, like,
why haven't we done sharks and fish?
So the Kanban board, and Charlie, this is all credit to you. You're like, can't we just tape some shit on the wall and like we do a Kanban of to-do, doing, and done? And that was so great to have these oversized sticky notes, and we visually, that's our schedule, that's our flow, because that's how we want people to be working on the job, right? And it's not like to the minute, it's to the flow. So I really think that was really, really helpful. And you're right, we have sharks and fish over there, but we did this morning, so
Yeah,
done.
so we
I
can
need to
move
move
it.
it. I need to move it. I'm
We
gonna
can
move
get
it
up
right
and
now.
move it. Wait, before you leave, don't leave. I'm going to wrap us up.
I
'cause-
got one riff,
all right,
and if you edit it out later, I'm fine.
bring it, baby. I don't edit much, man. I'm not that good at
So
it.
this part, the first part needs to stay, because we also have a debt of gratitude to some guys y'all don't know, but hopefully will. Chris and Janelle launched an event called Your 2040.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me during this call that Kristina's path into taking up space may have started in part with Your 2040. So it was selecting 100 people, they're gonna come together and try to make sure the planet is better in 2040. A friend of mine from London said, hey Charlie, you should try to come to this thing. I saw it and I was like, hey Kristina, you should try to come to this thing. And she read it, and I remember she said, do you think they would really want me there? Paraphrase. And then she applied and she was able to go, and I had my golden hit moment, which is a story for another time. So I wasn't there, she brought me a bag. I still became great friends with those people. But that's where I think you started to realize, yes, these things really do matter. And I think that was also part of your path of, okay, from Digital Pathia, which was 40 and tech focused, to SoBuilt, which was people. So we owe thank you to Chris and Janelle. And then this is the part of the riff, if you want to edit it, I'm cool. I think we need a target in the future that is really aspirational, and perhaps we could anchor to this United Nations study in 2017 that documented the amount of built environment in the world at the time and said by 2060 we will need to double the built environment. Now some of that is, you know, reinvestment in infrastructure, hospitals, etc. But what we had built as a people on the planet by 2017, by 2060 we would double it, which equals building a new New York City every 40 days. So we're just now on this on-ramp of what we're gonna have to do to meet global demand by 2060. And I often go to this story now as that abundance, not scarcity story. There is so much work and construction in our future. So maybe there's a way to anchor to that 2060. And what if it's not just a built environment, but it's intentionally so built differently in 2060?
Yeah, let's do that. I'm in. No, because one of the things is bigger, right? We need to focus on the small problems, but we always need to be dreaming bigger. We need to wonder about our futures and dream. So, 2060,
I
let's
think
talk
the
about it.
magic is, I mean, Kelli said it, right? Like, what she got here is impacting her personally, professionally. It's going to change the way she interacts with people going into the future, which is going to change the way they interact with, like, the ripples of that. I didn't have to dig for any takeaways here. Right? Like,
No, I had to sift through ahas.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Which is a real rarity, man. Like, we go to a lot of these. I'm looking for one.
The quote board, yeah.
Yeah.
Kudos to
Somebody
the
help
quote
me
board.
out. What was Jackson's throwaway quote?
It said it was a throwaway culture.
Throwaway culture. So
Yeah.
that to me, 3 weeks ago, I was sitting with a guy on Wednesday night, and I always remember where I was. He's a leader at our company. He said, "Charlie, is construction really going to change in our careers?"
I don't know. People like Jackson make me think yes.
Yeah.
No, but when you look at that question coming from that guy, like, have we really changed?
Well,
You know,
one
we
of
just
the-
talked about conferences are the same over 10 years, contract
Right.
problem, all that. But maybe in Jackson's comment about throwaway culture, that is something we can change.
Yeah.
Yes.
We may still have the same design challenges, technical challenges, resource challenges, material challenges, but what if we can put a dent in the throwaway culture?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that abundance versus scarcity, that resonated with me, and then it equated to opportunity.
Yeah.
And that is the opportunity that is here. Taking advantage of the opportunity to make that dent. And as we were talking about last night, you know, how are we gonna make that a healthy competition where it's okay to strive to be better and do better and treat people better?
As long as I win.
I mean, you get
You always
both.
win, Jesse.
I think we can all win. All right, with that, guys, we're gonna wrap up. SoBuilt. So I like that. SoBuilt 2060.
So built better.
SoBuilt Better 2060. So this is the end for us of SoBuilt 2020, whatever we are now, 2023. I had to look at my watch. It's like time warp. And thanks for listening in. Thanks for having us here. Thanks for bringing the incredible space. Thank you all for bringing the incredible spirit and just being people I want to be around.
Yeah.
And if you missed it, you're going to want to sign up for next year.
Come and see.